Hello, everyone. Welcome to class again. I'm so glad that you're here and you are able to join even asynchronously. So I hope you guys are doing well. You've been able to catch up with all the other things that you need to work on for this class and for your other classes. All right. Last time we talked about the value of cooperation as described to us by H.P. Grice, and we learned that communication is all about being cooperative, right? At the same time, we were introduced to the idea of communication, not just as cooperation, but actually being polite. Therefore, what we're learning here is the social cultural aspect of communication. It's not just about knowing about language itself, like grammar, the rules, being organized, being clear, maybe using oculistics and all other nonverbal considerations. Those are important. But over and above those, we learned that conversation, interaction, communication involves a lot of other things. And mostly they are governed and dictated by the society where we live. That's the focus of our conversation today, our lecture for today. I hope you learned something out of it. And take note because you are also using these concepts for your paper. So I want you to pay close attention and be able to get some ideas, which of these ideas can be used by you as your framework or guide as or your lens or lenses for your paper, academic paper for this course. So let's move on. We learned about the maxims of Grice, the four maxims. So we were told to be truthful, all right? No lying. Where do we get that? That's quantity or quality, all right? Maximum of quality. We also learned that in communication, it involves being nice, okay? Because we would want to have good faith. Because if we don't maintain good relationships, then we lose our face or good face, right? So in our conversation, it has to be meaningful, meaning relevant, and then we only supply adequate information. So that's quantity, and we learned those at length last time. Now, having good face or self-image, our responses must be also relevant. We learned that to the subject that is the focus of discussion. Now, we don't give the other people a hard time in trying to understand us. That's our role as teachers, right? We have to make difficult concepts easy so that you get to understand. And we have to talk to you, not really lecture, but really engage you. Unfortunately, in an asynchronous situation like this, we try to be very, we want things interactive, but the least that we can do is for you to respond later on when I'm done, right? Hopefully you would do that and you don't fall asleep while we're doing this, okay? Now, we're leading now towards politeness because that's our next topic. And that's another concept that you guys may want to use for your paper. So based on the fourth maxim of Grice, we learned that in order for us to protect our face, our identity, our image, we have to be clear, we have to be direct, and we have to be straightforward. I have a note for myself here. Now, I said, while I agree with the maxim of manner, okay, this does not always apply in indirect cultures like the Philippines. So this is my observation here. So you don't always have to agree, by the way, to all theories. That's why they're called theories, because they may be right, they may be wrong. So this is my take of this. For in many instances, as I said, we violate this maxim. Okay, how do we do that? And the goal is the same. What is our goal? When we still want to be, what they call this, we want to tell the truth. We want to be relevant. We want to be nice. Okay. However, between being truthful and being nice, sometimes we have to choose between being nice without telling lies. I have to qualify that. All right. So this is where the idea of politeness comes in. You remember last time? I remember 20, when was that? 1998. So maybe you weren't born yet. I had a call from my brother, and then he said, Kuya, long distance. Um, we brought mother to the hospital. right? That's truth, right? Being it's the quality, the quantity, it's there. But then he was applying the maxim of manner. And then he said, and she's gone. He didn't say, and then mother died. He did not use the word died, but he said gone. So what are we learning here? In our communication, there are certain words that we choose so that even if we try to, we try to be relevant, we try to be, how should I say it? Relevant, truthful, but then there are certain things that we do not say. Why is that? That's the idea of politeness. We don't want to offend or we don't want to shock people. So today we're going to talk about politeness. Sir, what's so important about politeness? Well, don't worry. Politeness, if you don't know, is a major thing, okay, in academia. And when we talk about politeness, it's not just the saying of po and oho or being courteous. No, it's more than that. And that's what we are going to learn today. So let's take a look at here. According to Self, politeness is like a social lubricant. What's that? Unlike alcohol, for example, when you use alcohol and you rub it, sometimes it's what? It's painful to the skin, right? It's not good. But lubricant like lotion, it's good to the skin, right? It's not it's not offensive or it's not rough, okay? Um, it's like being diplomatic. It's like wearing velvet glove, right? According to Sel. So what does that mean? You have an iron fist, but then you are wearing a velvet glove, right? What does that mean? For example, I'm angry with you because maybe you were not doing your job well in a particular, you did not do your job well in a particular task. Well, I have two options. I can exercise my authority as your professor and scold you and get really angry at you, right? That's using alcohol. I'm not using politeness there, but I can still achieve my purpose. I can still scold you, by the way, without you feeling so bad inside that, you know, you would realize, you will not cry, but you would realize, yeah, I think we were wrong and Serafi is right. What's my strategy? Politeness. So I'll speak in a way that my tone is not abrasive. My words are not so blunt, but I would just say, okay, class. Normally, this is what I'd say, right? This class is for you. So when I ask you to do a certain job, I'm not asking it, for it arbitrarily. I'm asking you to do it because I know as your professor and as a person who has been in the academe and in the media for the longest time, I know what you need to do so that you grow as a person, so that you become better in your communication, in your writing, speaking, etc. But I'm not raising my voice. So you really have, I just admonish. But I'm saying the same thing without raising my voice. That's what you call politeness. But there's more to politeness than just that. Okay, I'm just giving you the introduction. Politeness is also adapting, meaning adjusting yourself to various situations. Don't you remember this? We talked about this in cooperative principle according to H.P. Grice. The four maxims again. We adjust in four different ways, right? So I don't need to repeat those. And then we behave according to the expectations of the society or the community we are in. Okay, for example, let's talk about politeness in conversation. So politeness is one of the, how should I say it, marshiest, it's one of the dirtiest maybe. There are many things that are happening there, but it's a good field, right? In pragmatics. Pragmatics is another field of linguistics, by the way, or social science or language, okay? Nevertheless, according to this point of ours, it has been the focus of many scientific research across disciplines. Why? There's so many things to study. That's why I'm teaching this to you. So where did all this begin? Aside from HP Grice and the other people I've mentioned, we learned politeness, the politeness theory actually from Lakoff. All right. What did she say? Robin Lakoff introduced this idea of politeness in conversation. This means that based on the revolutionary work of H.P. Grice, Lakoff came up with certain specifics. They're almost similar, but quite different. So she conceptualized a set of rules regarding politeness. So according to her, no, there has to be some, a set of rules that we follow and not just the cooperative principle. So here she is. So she enumerates 3 rules of politeness. Number 1, don't impose. Does Serafi impose? I do, right? But I give you an opportunity to negotiate. But according to her, we don't impose. We don't say, don't do that. That's imposing, all right? Or do this, that's imposing. The second one is you give options, okay? So don't impose. Instead, you give options. All right, class, during our exam, right? So I gave you answer 1, I imposed 1, the minutes of the meeting question. And then the second one was, you had to choose, by the way, 2 from the 5. So I gave you options. So in a way, I'm following Lakoff, right? Number 3, make the other person, you are the other persons in this case, feel good. In other words, be friendly. Okay, when I was starting in UANP, I was regarded as a terror teacher, professor. Why is that? I was really strict. And I wasn't the friendly type. I would smile, I would smile. And after class, you could talk to me, etc. But in class, I am strict, okay? I mean, business only. But I have learned over time that in teaching and in education, it helps if you are kinder, more generous, more understanding, more friendly, without being, without crossing the boundaries between, between us. There's still that respect, right? So, according to Robin Lakoff, politeness means you don't tell the other person what to do. Okay, the other one, you give them options, and then you have to sound friendly in your language. Okay, so it's related to the cooperative principle, right? And we call this pragmatic competence. It just means that you know how to relate with people. You know how to communicate. They relate to the 4 competences again, right? So she compared her politeness rules with Grice, okay? And these are her rules. So she came up with her rules, as you remember, okay? So remember Grice, his idea is be clear, okay? That's the overall idea. For Lakoff, be polite, right? So quantity and quality, maybe the equivalent is do not impose. Relevance and manner, make the other people feel good. So overall, what Lakoff is saying, all of this actually boil down to being polite, being kind, being friendly. Okay, so basically, politeness, according to Robin Lakoff, is you avoid causing an offense. It's really being careful. So this is her assessment. Most of the time, politeness takes precedence over clarity in cases where the 2 are in conflict. You agree? It's like, okay, should I tell the truth? Should I be clear? Or should I kind of water down the truth so that I do not offend the other party? You would agree with me that there are times we become vague, a little bit vague, right? Or in Filipino, we beat around the bush. We don't go straight. Like, is it easy to borrow money? I know how it is to borrow money. I've been there, and it's not easy. So do you go to the person and say, may I borrow 1,000? No. First, You tell them stories, how your day went, kumustahin mo sila and everything. Yeah. So you ask them, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. So you have that long conversation until you find a way how to introduce the idea of borrowing money. You are being ambiguous from the very beginning. You know, ultimately they'll get the idea. Oh, the reason why you are here and the reason why you're talking to me is you wanted to borrow money. Some people are not happy with that, but in your case, you have to do that. Why? You have to preserve your face. You don't want to lose face, right? Remember that idea that we talked about previously? There's your face. You have to protect it. And so you have to sound as if you're not really having a hard time. And so you say, life has been hard and my son has to pay this and this and that. And I'm wondering if it's not too much on you, if I could ask you for 1,000, but don't worry, it will be returned to you as soon as possible. I have salary coming up this, in the coming days, etc. But you were very, very long. You provided so much, right? So according to, and you were not very clear. And according to Lakoff, there are times you have to do that. So you violate the maxims, any of those maxims, the rules by Grice, so that you become polite. Okay. So sometimes what is important, according to Lakoff, is in conversations or actual communication of important ideas, this particular communication is only secondary. You get it? It's only secondary to the reaffirming and strengthening of relationships. In other words, you don't want to hurt, for example, the feelings of your friend or loved one. And so you go at length, you go the trouble of using all difficult words, unnecessary words, so that you don't mention that particular difficult word. Like, for example, let me give you a specific example. Instead of me saying, you did not perform well, you failed, you had a lot, you failed in my class. How would you feel? But what do I do first? I don't do that. Okay. I would say, John, if your name is John, um, I think because of the pandemic, you've been kind of struggling. That's normal. And I would understand if you're having problem, you're good at this particular area. Normally I'd do that. I'd look for that. But then in this class, during this term, at this during this time, maybe midterm, you didn't quite make it, right? Your current grade is 70 or 69. But don't worry. We still have a lot of time. And I look at you as a good student. So I encourage you. Okay. So I did not dwell on the truth, although I also say it in a way, right? But I said many other things so that it is overcrowded. The truth there is overcrowded by so many things. And I wanted you to feel good. And I wanted you to you feel encouraged to move on, keep on in this class. And I tell you, I do not want you to fail because I don't. Okay, I don't want my students to fail. I will help you. Let's work together. So what's that? I'm working on the relationship as well. While I'm trying to build you up, I'm also trying to build the relationship that we have, the teacher-student relationship, because if the relationship is good, then it's going to be easier for me to encourage you and help you to move on and pass the course, right? Because you don't want to repeat any course. So in being polite, in short, being polite is more important than at times, okay, in communication. Being truthful, being factual, and being clear. When I say truthful here, doesn't mean you have to tell the lie. I just mean that there are times you make things a little vague. Example in marriage. Okay, when being truthful and being clear is offensive to my wife, I choose to apply Lakoff's rule. In other words, okay, for example, my wife asked me, how do I look in my new dress? And I see that it doesn't really fit her. So should I say, you don't look good at it? No, I won't be able to sleep. in the bedroom tonight, all right, on that particular day, because they are expecting, she's expecting that I affirm. So I have to say, um, the color's good. It's your color. But maybe I did not focus on how do I look, right? Some men would say probably, "Oh, you look beautiful. You're as beautiful as Miss Universe." Well, I don't go that length. I mean, I still try to be truthful without offending. So uh, the relationship is more important. Okay, so there are times some of the maxims of Grice are violated. Now that leads us to the theory of Penelope Brown and Stephen Levinson. This is their definition of politeness. And in fact, the theory of politeness is attributed to them. And this is one theory, by the way, that you can use for your paper. Okay. Politeness is a universal feature of language use, they say, which means that every language has its own ways to express politeness. Tagalog, Korean, English. In English, you don't see a lot, just being courteous. But in Filipino, we pluralize our words, right? Ka, it becomes kayo. Mo, we say nyo. In Korean, they use seo, right? In Japanese, they have so many. And other language, they do that. So this couple introduced us to the face theory. What does this mean? You already have an inkling already about this, but let me just explain. The face theory is a very influential theory of Levinson and Brown. There are three basic notions. Okay, one is the idea of a face. The second one is face-threatening acts. What are these? I'll explain. And then politeness strategies. Okay, let's talk about the face. The face, when you encounter it here or in language studies, it just means your public image. Okay, this is the image that you would want to project or you want people to remember about you, right? Your image. Okay, how you want to be seen or viewed. So if you see Sir Rafi as Sir Rafi strict but fun, then that's my image. Although I don't really like the strict, I want just the fun. Okay, so the politeness theory. What else? Brown and Levinson built their theory on politeness because they assume that all the things that we say, activities, communicative activities, they call them speech acts, are many times by nature, they are threatening. In other words, whatever we say, there's always something beneath, okay, underneath that may be offensive. You agree? To you, it's not offensive, but to the other people, maybe it's offensive. So speech acts are threatening because, take note of this, they do not support the face ones of the speaker and those of the addressee. Simply means what you're saying or communicating, it's face threatening, it's offensive to the other person because you do not support their face ones. Face ones means how they want to be viewed. Okay, and so if you scolded them, that's face threatening. If I say you're bad, that's face threatening. Why? I am not regarding you as a respectable person because you want to be regarded as a respectable person, right? Well, if I say you failed, that's not the image that you want to project. You want to project an image that is, that you are a good student. That's why I make it a point that I do not say you fail. Okay, you just need to work a little bit harder here. That's what I say, right? Because I don't want to say something that is face threatening or, simply put, offensive to your image. You want to keep that image. Sir Rafi must see me as a student who is good. Therefore, I keep to that as well. And I say, you are good. And that's how I look at my students, by the way. My students are good. You are all good. Okay. You are all capable of, demonstrating your excellence, and you can deliver. Okay. So that's what I emphasize. And when I do that, it's consistent with your idea of yourself, or at least what you would want to project. Okay. So there are the face has two sides, supposed to be. There are two sides or two kinds of face. The first one is positive face, and the second one is negative face. So what is positive and what is negative? Note the negative here is not really negative, negative. Okay, you will find out. What's the difference? The positive face is, number one, this is our desire. This is what we want. Okay, let me just move this. This is the want, desire of every member or every person, that his desires or his wants, okay, are acceptable or desirable to the other party. In other words, when you say positive face, I want you to accept that my desire or my image is good. Are you with me? So if you look at yourself and you want to project yourself as a good UANP student, you want, that is your positive face, okay? And you want that to be respected, to be maintained, and you want Sir Rafi or other people to see you that way. Therefore, whatever I say, the way I treat you should communicate that I recognize your positive face. You with me? Again, when we say positive face, you want other people to acknowledge, accept who you are, okay? What you desire, in other words. So if you desire to be excellent and that's what you project, I must accept that and acknowledge that. You call that positive face. If I don't acknowledge it, let's say you say, sir, I'm very good in dancing, or I'm very good in singing. And then I say, Ray, then I'm not recognizing your positive face. But if I say, wow, I'm so happy to hear that, then I am agreeing with you. Therefore, I am reinforcing your positive face. So the want, the desire, okay, that you recognize the good thing about me, that's positive face. The negative face, okay, the negative face is quite different. It's not really negative, but negative, it's called negative only because we don't want to be, this is our desire not to be hindered or imposed upon. So if I tell you, okay, I'm deducting 5 points from your bonus, that's an offense to you. That's not consistent to your negative face. In other words, the negative face refers to what? If I hinder you from expressing yourself or doing something, then that affects your negative face. We both have positive and negative face. Are you with me? The negative face is that the want to be unimpeded by others. Don't stop me. Don't impose upon me. That's my negative face. Because if you impose, then you are offending my negative face. You understand? It's like, this is your face. This face here is the positive. Recognize that I am good. Okay? I have another side, the left side, for example. This is the negative face. Do not tell me what to do. I hope it's clear. That's the negative face. So it's negative face is like, this is my claim for territory. Don't ever step here, sort of. Okay. It's don't distract me. So if you distract somebody, you tell them what to do or not to do, you impose upon them, you restrict their freedom, you're affecting their negative face. Okay. So I hope you understand that. If you don't, go back to that particular lecture because I already spent a great deal of time there. Okay, so positive face is actually later on. Okay, it evolved and it now connects to your desire to relate to people or connect with others, and it also relates to self-esteem. You want to be liked. You want to be related to, okay? The negative face is your want to be independent. You want to be autonomous. You don't want to be told what to do. You don't want, you want freedom. This one is self-esteem. The second one is freedom to act. So I think these are better concepts to understand regarding positive phase. It's about your self-esteem. Negative phase is your freedom to act. And these two aspects of phase are the basic desires in any interaction and even in written communication, I suppose. Therefore, during social interaction, cooperation is needed between participants. Why? If you don't cooperate, then you don't maintain the self-esteem or the freedom to act. Because if I tell you, could you buy me a drink? I'm not giving you freedom because I'm telling you to do something for me, right? So if I tell you you're a failure, I'm destroying your self-esteem. So your positive phase is affected. If I tell you, can you wash the dishes? It affects your negative phase because you have to do the job, right? Especially if you are young and member of the family and the one telling you is your parent, okay? So I can skip this, all right? I mentioned to you about face-threatening acts. Face-threatening acts, these are words that we say that can offend the other party. That's, just consider those, okay? They can be verbal expressions or can be non-verbal or paraverbal. Facial expressions, for example, you're reciting and then I say, way, all right, you sure that's spoken? Or if I say, I shake my head like this. Would you like that? Those are face threatening because I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not supporting you. So when I don't support you, that's face threatening or it's affecting your self-esteem. Okay, I'm trying to restrict you in that aspect. So it affects both positive and negative face. So there are examples where your positive face and negative face are affected. Okay, let me give you examples. Okay, for example, face-threatening acts. When I give statements, for example, that you hear, right, and probably they don't agree with you or you don't agree with them, and because they affect your positive face. These examples include the following. Number one, if I give you bad news, okay? So if I say, no one wants to rent your condominium unit, that's bad news. Why? I'm rejecting you, or I'm rejecting something that's important to you. Or what about disapproval? Your choice of condominium is unacceptable. So again, I'm rejecting your choice. Disapproval. If I complain, I don't like this condo unit. That's face threatening, meaning to say, I'm disagreeing with you. I don't agree with your choice. I'm rejecting. And so your self-image or self-esteem is kind of affected, right? What about criticism? When I criticize and I say, this unit is like a prison, or if I say, this submission of yours, okay, it's like the work of a grade 1 student. I mean, of course, I won't say that to you, okay? Even if it were true, I won't. But I'm sure you're not like that. So criticism, if I criticize, then that affects the self-esteem. That's face threatening. Or if I'm accusing, if I say, you cheated, right? Or if I say, you didn't want to get us a decent unit, did you? Okay. So that's face threatening. It's an affront. It's destructive to us. Even violent emotions like, you're making me really mad. Or if I raise my voice, guys, because you were not doing your part, for example, in a particular task. So if I raise my voice and I'm really, really mad, then that's also an affront to you. Your self-esteem is affected, right? It's like you don't want to continue anymore. Oh, Sir Rafi's really mad at me or mad at us. So what do we do? But if I say, guys, I'm quite disappointed, but I'm sure there's a reason and you can always do something about this. Then I did not criticize, did I? I did not I wasn't, mad, but I was able to recognize your positive face, meaning to say your self-esteem. And I did not tell you, okay, because you did not do well, from now on you have to do this. I don't do that. And I never did that because I didn't want to violate your or affect your negative face. To be told, all right, to be restricted. Okay. And there are many more. If I use a taboo language, right? If a person uses a taboo language, that affects them. And that again is face-threatening act. Or their emotions, okay? You express emotions. When you interrupt. If you interrupt me, for example, that affects my positive face. And that also affect I'm using face because it's about face. It's easier for us to remember, right? It affects my positive face because you're not recognized, you're not respecting me as your professor, right? That what I'm sharing is important and you should not interrupt unless it's a matter of life and death. It also affects my negative face because you are restricting me, right? So that's just an example. Okay, so I think I have given, what about negative um, examples? I'll give you maybe a few. Examples of negative face-threatening acts that affect the negative face, okay? The negative face is affected if you confess. So here is the example. Joe is not the culprit. I saw you gathering the broken, something happened about the vase, maybe. I saw you gathering the broken pieces. And then B says, the person confessing, all right, I was the one who broke that vase. That affects your negative face because that would restrict you now. Okay. The other one, apologies. Joe is not the culprit. I saw you gathering the pieces, the broken pieces. And then you say, I'm sorry, I broke the vase. Meaning you have to retreat. You have to accept responsibility, and that can cost you something. Maybe you'll have to pay, or maybe you need to clean up. That affects the negative face because something is going to be imposed upon you, right? Or maybe an order if you are being told to do something or making promise or making compliment. These are some of the other examples that make the negative face affected. Note that both the positive and negative face are good faces, right? They're not, the other one is not really negative. So I'm skipping this because you don't really need that. All right. According to Brown and Levinson, we do something so that we don't offend other people. We call these strategies. What are the strategies that we use so that our communication is perfect? It's not offensive, right? So we use number one, positive politeness. What's that? I'll tell you. And then we also use negative politeness. Is that negative, negative? No. Off-record politeness. Okay. What's the difference? Let's compare them. Okay. So we use this according to them. In our conversation, in our communication, we use those three. What is positive politeness? Positive politeness is your aim is to support or enhance the positive face of the person, their self-esteem. If they want to be known as popular or they want to be known as excellent, you agree with them. And so you say, you know, you're very good in writing. So that's positive politeness. You with me? Negative politeness is your objective is you're actually trying to impose. You're trying to tell them something. However, you make it sound as if it's not a serious thing. For example, I do this with you, right? Okay, guys, we need to rush. We need to do something because we're running out of time and we need to submit this project as soon as possible. But remember, you're doing it for yourself, right? You're not doing it for me. Remember my spiels? I always say that it's a preparation for your, it's a training for you in college and when you already work in the corporate world. So we do that. I say that. Although I'm imposing, I make it sound that you need it. And indeed, you need to do it because you're a student. You need to learn. That's an example of negative politeness. You are imposing, yet the imposition is quite, it's not light. So we say something like this. I hope you don't mind me asking you to sit there, right? We don't say sit there, right? We don't say do this. I would say, I would like to request that this be done. I don't even maybe use the word you, okay? Because that's it's imposing. So we don't impose. We don't say, you don't use the you like in memos. Probably we use third person. So I request everyone to be understanding, etc. So that's an example there of negative politeness. Number 3 is off-record politeness. What do we mean here? This is when we try to flout or try to violate one of the maxims. You remember the 4 maxims? Because we assume that the addressee, the person that we are addressing, is able to detect already what we're trying to say. So I'll give you, yeah. So in other words, let me go back. I think I did not explain that well. Okay. So before I move on to Filipino politeness, off-record politeness is, one example is when you try to be unclear or vague because, in other words, no, let me backtrack a bit. Off record is you want to be more direct as much as possible, okay? Because you know that the person already understands what you are trying to say. So that's off record politeness. All right. So if you have any questions regarding this, you let me know. This is where we will end. What about in the Philippines? You can also use this in your paper as your basis for analyzing a particular content or text. In Filipino context, we have the so-called honorifics. Okay, honorifics. Like we say kagalang-galang or honorable, or we say minamahal na mayor or mahal na mayor, kapitapitagang mayor. So these are what you call linguistic adjustments, or we call them attorney, doctor. Those are honorific. We call them certain names, directors. You give them ascribed titles to them. Engineer. Why? That's part of our culture. Okay. Within the family circle, there are certain titles like kuya, diko, sanko, ate, diche, ache, right? Regardless of your, region you come from in the Philippines or in other countries, you have these. Even in Korean, they have onni, all right, or oppa. It's different, right? Now, for strangers, we say manong or manang. For Ilocanos, even for Tagalogs, we say Ilocano. We say manong or manang. We say kuya or ate, ache or kuya in Pampanga, and many, many more, right? Because that's part of our being polite. But politeness in our context is more than that. So let's take a look at here. Look at this slide. Okay. The pronouns that we use, I mentioned this. We change ikaw, you, to sila. Sino po ikaw? We don't say that. Who are you? No. We say, who are they? Literally, right? Instead of saying ka, sino ka? Who are you? Sino po kayo? So we make it plural. Kayo is the plural counterpart of ka. And mo, we use, anong kailangan mo? What do you need? We say, ano po ang kailangan ninyo? What do you need? The you there is ninyo there. Or you say nila, the more impersonal. Okay? By the way, in other parts of the country, these are not practiced because they have a different language, right? But in Japanese and Korean, they have almost similar. Maybe my spelling here is correct. Maybe not practice in the Visayas or Mindanao, because as far as I know, the Visayans don't have, and Mindanaoans don't have ho or po. Okay. Now, what about politeness at workplace? Because this relates to us. When there is a particular communication here, the style, the processes, and techniques. Okay. What do you call your objectives? Let's say these objectives, you call them ninanais. Let's say you want to achieve something. You want to there's a motivation. What would be your style in communicating, your way to communicate them? How do you communicate your objectives or ninanais? There are styles that you follow. The style for this is maybe you would just share your knowledge, okay? But there's more, okay? Let me go back. This is the last slide. You might want to establish ways to communicate. That's what you call pamamaraan ng pagkakakilala. You're establishing ways to communicate. That's a process. And your technique, maybe you will adopt certain communicative techniques. It's really up to you. But this is where I want you guys to concentrate on. So how do you communicate your objectives and sharing of your ideas and the processes and your techniques? These are what you follow. Okay. In your communication, step 1, what do you do? To get a positive response to the objectives. That's what you want, right? And step 2 is to call attention to maybe specifics or close to what one wants. And then step 3, you reveal what, finally what one, it's a step, okay? You begin first with your objective and then you give specifics and then etc. The result would be pleasant relations. There is good rapport. You follow this. It's not very straightforward. There is a step. There are steps to follow, slowly but surely. Why? Because you want the person to be pleasant towards you. There's a good rapport. You don't want to shock them by telling them already your objective. I want to borrow money. No. So you do it slowly, right? In a way that will not be shocking to them. Okay, what about style? Here, it's clearer here. What they do first is you give hints. Okay, let's talk about borrowing money. It's not easy to borrow money. So you probably begin with, life is so hard these days, right? That means you don't have money, but you don't want to tell the person yet. Maybe the following day, you already make them conscious and maybe you show them the wallet. Oh, too bad. I'm already out of money, but you're not yet borrowing money. And then later on, maybe the next day or a little later, you can be a little open and say, Dre, yung wallet ko, wala na palang naman. Or my wallet does not have any more money. They have extra there, but you started with that one first, giving a hint and showing your wallet, okay? And that leads you to sharing of the information without really offending or without shocking the person, because you prepare them. It's step by step here, right? This one represents that, this two represent this, okay? Let's talk about processes. When you share to the other person that you want to borrow money, you don't just do that anytime you want. In our language, that is pakikiramdam. You test the waters first. You feel each other. Is it a good time? The timing, right? And then, or let's say you want to tell them that you got hurt by them. You just don't blurt it out and say, you hurt my feelings. No, it might not be the right timing. The best thing to do is try to test the waters first. Is he in a good mood? Okay, if he is, then maybe you can start sharing little by little. Then you can talk things over. You know, a while ago, when you said that word, it felt something. Now, you're being careful there, but you're starting to talk. But here you're being careful because this is Filipino context. In Filipino context, it's really hard to talk. It's really hard to unburden yourself or to share what is in your heart. And then what's the next step? Pagbibigayan, sorry for the typo. It's giving way to each other. Supposed to be there's cooperation. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. But anyway, you try to be sensitive and then you try to talk. And if the other person is willing to give in and understand you, then that's good. If it's not, then what can we do, right? But anyway, this is the flow. This is according to Hokano, by the way. And then pagsasamahan. In other words, this is a consensus leading to group cohesiveness. You now, after talking and you try to accommodate each other, you try to understand each other, you now have somehow you maintain the good relationship. Or if ever the good relationship is not as good as before, but still there's still that, good dealings or relationship. Okay. These are also related, but I would not worry about them later anymore. These are techniques. Okay. So there are times in your communicative techniques, what we do is we consult. That's pagsasangguni. This is not imposing, but actually asking inputs. We're not imposing. The other one is we try to persuade in a nice way, but we don't impose. The other one is it leads to pagkakasundo, agreement. We agree. I got hurt, and I hope you don't mind if I tell you that it's really offensive to me, and I hope you don't do that again because you are my friend. And if your friend said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I understand," then there is pagkakasundo. There is an agreement. Okay, there's unity there, and there is pag-uunawa or understanding leading to the agreement that we're still friends and we, like each other. We'll continue to work together. So this is a quick, rundown, overview, presentation on how we handle politeness in the Filipino context. There's a lot more to cover, but I will not overwhelm you with those, and we will end it here. Okay, there is a task for you to do. All right. So I will provide you another video, another recording on the instructions. If not, there should be provided in the modules. And for other details, you can consult with me or send me a message. All right. You guys take care.